making decisions regarding this system, please refer to the National Hurricane Center, your local weather office, and your local authorities for all the latest information pertaining to you. I'm going to get into this system here, and quite frankly, this has been one of the more confusing systems to track here. There's been a lot going on in the past 24 hours, and none of it has been very clear. And if we take a look at the system, at first glance, you can tell that the system's mid-level circulation is definitely present here. You can see a loose turning in the mid-levels along with the intensifying convection here. However, when recon went into the storm this morning, they found a storm that was above 1010 millibars, indicating a very shallow vortex, and one that may not have even been a vortex for some time during the overnight hours. And so what essentially happened back here, what is thought to have happened back here, is overnight when the storm was blasting convection, and there were several hot towers around the system. So the system was right here. There's lower level circulation, and then you had hot towers all around the northeastern side, and then a band of hot towers on the southwestern side. And what this may have done to the circulation is stretched out the lower level circulation so that it became more like a trough, because all of these competing updrafts were trying to drag this system's circulation into or under those updrafts so that it would intensify under that. And it appears that that may have completely destroyed the lower level circulation for a time. And now, essentially, what we're looking at is a storm that is trying to rebuild that lower level circulation. We do have lower level vorticity located somewhere around here. As you can see, the flow on the west side of the system, this is kind of trying to go back in here. And then this is very close to being aligned. So the mid-level circulation is somewhere in here, and then you have lower level circulation that is somewhere in here, and this could align itself over the next 12 to 18 hours here as it passes to the south of Cuba. And really, it got very lucky in the sense that it did not pass over Cuba, and now the storm still does have a chance to re-strengthen a little bit. But right now, this is a very confusing system that is not very well defined right now. And I mean, at first glance, this looks like a developing hurricane here, but at closer inspection, this is not a very organized system and has yet to really organize in a substantial way. But if this is able to align its mid-level circulation and its lower level circulation before it makes landfall here somewhere in the western part of Cuba here, then maybe this would be able to intensify some. The waters, as I've been mentioning in the past several videos here, are very warm and actually are a little warmer now, and that's just because that's how as the season progresses, the waters in the Western Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico tend to warm through every day. And so the system would have a chance to possibly re-strengthen. And if we look at the water vapor loop, we have another kind of helpful thing that is going to be aiding the system. And as you can see now, you have a lot of upper level outflow racing out of the system now, and a lot of upper level divergence, which would aid the convection. Divergence essentially is a ventilation thing that allows for convection to continue to fire, and it transports the mass out away in the form of cirrus clouds here, which is what you're seeing here. All this outflow is from the thunderstorms, and this will continue to occur until it gets to right about in here, where it's in this general area where you can see an upper level trough is approaching, and you have a lot of south or northerly shear being put upon the system here. And this will likely hurt the system more than it benefits it. But it could, again, it has a little window of intensification. I do not expect this, and it is not expected to become a hurricane again, but it could potentially reorganize, and it does have that environment around it for the time being. But as it gets up into the Gulf of Mexico here in the Florida Straits, those conditions begin to deteriorate due to the aforementioned upper level trough. So if we look at the 3-day cone, you can see that the system is actually to the south and has continued to be to the south of the National Hurricane Center track forecast. How can I tell that? Well, this is the intermediate advisory here. And you have what was forecast here, and it is already south of that. And so it probably will pass somewhere on the southern half of this forecast track right now. Again, as long as you're in the cone, please do, and even if you're close to the cone, you do need to be preparing for a potential pass over you. And the National Hurricane Center forecast has actually slowed down quite a bit here. You can see that this is now 8 a.m. Wednesday where it makes landfall on the Florida coastline. Again, if it takes the further north track, then it'll probably be on land sooner and will likely be weaker. But if it takes the further west track, then yeah, the storm may not make landfall until Wednesday morning or afternoon. And so we still have a lot of time here before the system really gets up into the Florida area. Already tropical storm force or tropical storm warnings here in the Keys, and those watches that you see on the west coast of Florida in the early part or the eastern part of the Keys here, these will all turn into warnings as the system closes in on the region. And we will likely begin to see tropical storm watches and warnings for the northern part of the Florida west coast here and getting into the Big Bend region. And it really depends on where exactly this comes out of Cuba. If it comes out of Cuba on this side, then the Big Bend region is in play, and Tampa is also in play. It comes out towards the center of this track, obviously still the Big Bend region, and Tampa is in play. The problem is that this is such a tightrope walk, and it's approaching the coast at such a narrow angle for error that, and this is similar to Irma in the sense that, it originally was going to go up here, and then it went into Naples, and it was, like this, essentially. You have tracks that make a big difference in terms of who gets the worst and who gets what in the impacts. So do be watching this if you're on the Florida Gulf Coast here. You do really need to be watching this and watch every little track wobble just so that you know that you are prepared, and just be prepared anyway because of the potential hazards that this is going to be giving you. This is probably going to be up in here probably with 40 to 60 mile per hour winds in this region, and you do need to be prepared for that, as 60 mile per hour winds can tend to cause tree damage and minor structural damage here. So do be prepared for that. So we get into the rainfall forecast here. Since the storm is moving a little slower, the rainfall forecast has not actually increased here. It's still, widespread 2 inches and 4 inches here over the Florida west coast. But if one of the bands of the system does set up over you, do not think that this is a final rainfall forecast. You could get up to 6 inches of rain here, or a high amount of rain here in a short amount of time if a band sets up over you. So please do take care of that. If we look at the surge graphic here, you can see that the surge graphic has 1 to 2 feet of storm surge in the Florida Keys here. This is more or less just nuisance flooding in this region, but do be careful when you're driving on the roads here, because there are some roads that are below that 1 to 2 foot margin here, and of course you have 1 to 3 feet on the Florida southwest coast here near Bonita Beach and southward into Flamingo, Florida. So please do take care of that, and this surge graphic will expand upward as the storm comes northward. It's still, a couple days out. I mean, you have 2 days before it's in this region right here. 8 a.m. Tuesday is when it is impacting the Florida Keys here, and that is still a long time, so you have plenty of time to prepare and get ready for the system, and be ready for a lot of flash flooding and a lot of rain, a lot of heavy wind, and maybe some power outages. And take extra caution when you're driving on the coast, as there may be some surge, and stay safe. That's all I got for now. Thanks for watching.